Hello humans, it's just Martine and it's time for episode 3 of Jokes on Me. Jokes on Me is a TBR game created by my bestie, Bailey from Is Bailey Reading. You can check out my first 2 episodes here. Let's get into our card flips. For this episode, we're using a dime. Last time we ended on start a series, and away we go. A 7, which is jump across the board. I'm going to land here on highest rated, I'm pretty sure. And then a 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a sequel, and ace, which is 1, a readathon. So from that we have 3 reading prompts and then a my choice book. We'll start with highest rated. So for this, I don't have my entire TBR on Goodreads, so I couldn't do that. So instead what I did is I took all of the books that I have a hold on right now at my library and I put them into Goodreads and saw which had the highest rating, and I'll be reading that one. And it turned out it was Demon Copperhead, which I'm super excited about, but I think is a pretty long book, so that should be interesting. For sequel, I'll be reading Empire of Time by Daniel Godfrey. I read the first book in the series during Chaostober, so might as well read this now. For the prompt of readathon, I don't have like a specific readathon I'm going to drop everything and participate in for a week, so instead I decided I'd use a readathon prompt for this. So I'm using a prompt from the Bookish Reality Discord server, specifically the Bookish Reality Academy readathon, and so for that, I'm reading This Poison Heart, and then I'll be reading a My Choice book. So let's get to reading. For the prompt of highest rated, I read Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I did not know going into this that it's a David Copperfield retelling. That's probably on me. Might be common knowledge, but I didn't know until I read the author's note at the end. Whoops. But then after that, I went and read a synopsis of David Copperfield, and I was like, nice, because I haven't read the original, so I wanted to see how it lined up. It's like a modern Southern retelling of that book, but you don't have to have read David Copperfield to appreciate this one, as I clearly show. So in this one, we're following this boy, and he is kind of born into a rough situation. His mother uses his dad has been dead for a really long time, like he never met his dad, and now he has like a stepfather coming to the picture who is not the greatest. And so we kind of follow his life story as he grows up, and especially some of his dealings with like poverty and the foster care system and all of those things. Overall, I found it really interesting, which is why I gave it 4 stars and like a pretty good time. I cared about the characters pretty deeply, and like Demon as a character I really found to be interesting, and I liked reading from his perspective about his life. I do think there were parts of it that were slower than they needed to be, and specifically one section in like the middle to later part was really repetitive. That was when like Demon was making his bad decisions over and over and over again, and that just got kind of frustrating because I was like, okay, I get the point. I'm ready to move on and see what happens after this. So there is that, because it's quite a long book, like it's over 500 pages, and I don't think it necessarily needed to be quite as long as it was. I do think the author made good use of a lot of that space, but maybe not all of it. So overall, I really enjoyed it, but like it wasn't ideal for me. It was kind of hard to get into, and there was a part near the middle / end that was just really repetitive to me. Overall, I can see why this was the highest rated of my holds. I think it's really good, and I can see why other people enjoyed it. So for the prompt of sequel, I read Empire of Time by Daniel Godfrey, which I gave 3 stars. This is a sequel to the book New Pompeii, which I always describe as like a book where they kind of Jurassic Park the Roman Empire, in that they use this weird time travel stuff to bring the people from Pompeii to the modern age and set up this place called New Pompeii, which looks just like old Pompeii, except it has not been trapped under the ash of Mount Vesuvius. And this kind of follows the events of the past book, but also is kind of a totally separate story. So in this one, we're following Nick. He's been in New Pompeii for 15 years. He originally went there as a historian, and he's been there for 15 years now, and then things start to get weird because they have the thing to like change time, but it hasn't been able to work for the past 15 years, and suddenly the timeline starts to change a little bit. So we're following that in here. And overall, just like the first one, I really enjoyed the idea behind this book, but I'm not sure the execution was quite there. There were also 3 different timelines that we were following, and it was very confusing how at least 2 of those timelines fit together, if not all of them. So I just think this author has a little too much going on in terms of timelines at times, but I really like the setting. I think it's a very creative book series, so I'm glad that I'm caught up on that. For readathon, which I took as a prompt, it's not usually a prompt, but I made it a prompt. So for readathon, I read This Poison Heart, which I'm giving 3.5 out of 5 stars. I knew this would be a little outside of my comfort zone because it's a YA fantasy, which is not usually my fave, but it's queer and the magic is cool, and so overall I had like a fun time with this, and I'm interested to see what happens in the sequel, which is exciting. It also had some Greek mythology in it, which I did not realize because I'd never heard anybody say that, and it does come in later, but like I just want to put it out there because some people really love YA fantasy that involves some mythological aspects, and so I think for those people, maybe they didn't know that was in this and maybe they should give this a try. I cannot speak to like the accuracy of how Greek mythology was used in this, but I'm not a huge Greek mythology girly, and I have to say I still enjoyed those parts. So that could either mean it was very well handled or it could mean it was entirely incorrect. I can't tell you. I haven't told you anything at all about what this is about. It's about this girl, and she was adopted. She's 2 moms. I love them both. And suddenly she finds out that she was willed the estate of her birth mother. Her moms pack up and they go to check out this place in Rhinebeck, New York, where her birth mother lived and grew up. There is something a little peculiar about our main character. She has this magical power to do with plants, like they pay attention to her and they grow at her command and stuff, but it's kind of a little out of control, and so moving from the city, the big city as it were, into the countryside gives her a chance to like kind of stretch and discover more about her powers and be more comfortable using them. And once she gets there, she realizes that her birth family was up to some weird plant stuff, and she goes on to learn some about how her powers came to be and what exactly they entail that she didn't already know, and things like that. And it's a pretty fun time. So another book down. We're going to just have this secret between you and me that I took my camera from filming about This Poison Heart right there and I put it in a new location, and it's literally seconds later. But I'm going to tell you about my choice book for this episode, which was on animals, because for a readathon I was doing, I had to read a nonfiction book about animals. So I read this one. It's a collection of essays by a writer from, I think, the New Yorker. Is that where she's from? Anyway, she's a journalist and she's written many pieces about animals over the years, all different types of pieces, some personal experience pieces, some about other people and their experiences with animals, all of them about very different animals. We talk about chickens, we talk about donkeys and mules, and what else did we talk about? Oh, tigers, all sorts of things, and just basically about people's relationships with animals and about those animals themselves and how they're used in different parts of the world and how they're regarded in different parts of the world and all of those things. And I actually really enjoyed this. It was just long enough where like it wasn't too long. It was less than 300 pages. I feel like sometimes nonfiction can drag on and on and on, but I felt like this was good. It had a good mix of different types of animals and types of experiences and all of those things. And so that kept it interesting. So I ended up giving it 4 stars because I just had a smashing time with it. I really liked it. And it was a quick read. Like, I read it in 2 days. That was mainly 1 day. It had already been a big reading day for me. I had read like several hours and finished Demon Copperhead on that day. But this was the only other book left in this episode, and I was like, I need to get it done. And so I read it and I just kept reading it. I don't know, I think that's a good sign for the book. But because of that, I'm actually done with this episode. I read all 4 books for this, so 3 prompted books and my choice book. So for highest rated, I read Demon Copperhead, which I gave 4 stars. For a sequel, I read Empire of Time, which I gave 3 stars. For readathon, I read This Poison Heart, which I gave 3.5 stars. And for my choice book, I read On Animals, which I gave 4 stars. Overall, a very successful episode. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Did you know This Poison Heart had Greek mythology in it? Have you read any of these books? If so, what were your thoughts on them? If not, which of these are you interested in? And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!